Hey everyone, Kareem Rae here, and today I have Gabriel Nunez on with us. Gabriel, how's it going?
Hello, Kareem. Thank you for having me. I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely. So can you please introduce yourself to the viewers?
Yes, of course. My name is well. You just said my name is Gabriel Nunez. I'm a Dominican Salvadorian player. I recently signed with a first division team here in El Salvador called Atlético Marte, and I've been playing professional soccer since I was 18. But in first division since I actually made my debut in first division at age 25.
Nice. So that's pretty late.
Yeah.
To sign your first, that was your first pro contract at 25, right?
That was my debut in the first league. Playing first division in the world. But I've played in the past. I was in Mexico. I was in Portugal. I was in Denmark. I was in Spain. I did sign contracts, but I was never in the like actual in the first division of a country.
Got it. So can just take us back in time to where football all began for you?
Yes, for sure. I mean, well, I've always been a football fanatic, and soccer for me was always like a way in because throughout my childhood, and because of my father's work, we tended to go from countries to countries, and football was like always like a way in to make friends, kind of. And then, after I started realizing how, you know, good of a player I was, and that I could actually, you know, began liking, playing football consistently, I decided, to actually pursue the career of becoming a pro athlete. Um, I went to IMG for my high school career, and after that, I had two options. I had an option of signing a contract in third division in Denmark, or go to the NCAA, and play there in actually very good college programs. I decided to go to the pro route. Unfortunately, while in Denmark, 3 weeks in, I tore my ACL for the first time, so it kind of took me out of the game for roughly 1 year. And then after that, I just literally went. I was able to go pro. I came back after 1 year of not playing. I went to Mexico, played there for 1 year. I signed a pro contract with Querétaro under 20s, and then after that, I came back to El Salvador. I played with Alianza. It was a first division team as well. And then I went to Portugal for 3 years to play in the third division. And then at age roughly 25 is when I got an offer to come back home to El Salvador to play in a team that just came from the second division. I took the offer, and I played. His name is Independiente. I played for them for 1 year and a half before the pandemic hit us, which was actually, that was where I had my debut, and I had my first goal in the first division. I had plenty of minutes. I got called to a national team while being in Independiente. Then after, when the pandemic hit us, I transferred to one of the four best teams in the country, which is Firpo. Unfortunately, I got my second ACL tear with Firpo. Took me out of the game for roughly 6 months. When my and half season, the team decided to get me, release me because of my injury. And I signed a deal with a first division team in Dominican Republic, which is my second home country. Played there for this year, and I recently signed. I came back to El Salvador, recently signed with Atlético Marte, and we're just Saturday. Hopefully, we start the season.
Nice, nice. That's awesome. So what country is that in for the team that you're playing with right now?
Atlético Marte is in El Salvador.
Salvador. Okay, nice. So can you just paint a picture for people that never been there yet, of what, how it is over there?
Well, El Salvador is probably one of the smallest countries in Central America. Actually, it is the smallest country. As you might understand, South American people were really passionate about the sport, and we play out of literally our heart and how much we love it. So it's actually a very like intense game. Every game has you know, you play like if you have like a chip on your shoulder all the time. So that's like has been for me the big. I've seen the biggest difference in where I've played, in my past to here to El Salvador and South American countries is that you play like if you have a chip on your shoulder, that you always want to demonstrate how good you are to the opposing team, and as a, it's a very competitive league and a competitive atmosphere, but nothing that's easy. It's worth doing. So I'm actually very happy to be here.
Absolutely. Can we just dive in a little bit deeper of how you went pro? So, did you sign your first pro contract at 21?
I signed my first pro contract at
What age?
21. Yes, I was actually I was 20. I was just turning 20. It was in Mexico. I was playing in Querétaro for the under 20s. You do sign a pro contract. You do get paid. If that's what you mean. But I didn't really have my actual debut in first division until I was 25.
Got it. Right. Which I did say was like pretty late, but that's still amazing because, you were able to accomplish your dreams. And I always say that, there's 230 or 250 million players around the world that play football at different levels, but there's only 130,000 pro players, according to FIFA's 2019 report. So you're a part of that. Like, that's not even 1%, and you're a part of that. So how much does that mean to you to actually accomplish your goal and dreams?
Well, I think that you said something about that. It's late for me. Being late or time is irrelevant, and I think those are just like points of views, because I know many athletes, especially young ones, that they have that pressure of wanting to go pro at age 18, and I just want to say that for the people that hear this that are younger, that don't put that pressure on yourself, because if I was able to do that at 25, which is something that's supposedly not common, I think everybody can do it. But regarding your question of 1% of the less than 1%, I feel extremely well. Obviously, it's an honor for me, because to do what you love and be able to win money out of it, I think that's like a blessing. But I also worked for it, so it didn't come from just grace of God. It's something that I did. And I continue to put in the time for it, and every opportunity that has come to my life, I've been able to get the most out of it. Understanding that opportunities don't usually come up twice, so I've always been ready for the time, and I was consistent and deliberate with my training, and it came. That day came, and I'm actually very happy to be part of this environment.
Absolutely. So, 25, obviously I didn't make up the rules, which is late. It's a part of the game. They say 25 is late, but a lot of players are not able to go from 20 to 25 and still keep that dream alive. So what advice would you give to players to say, hey, keep going? Like, there's light at the end of the tunnel if you try or work hard enough or make the right connection.
I think you just need to trust the process. I mean, and understand that you cannot compare your path to someone else's path, because we're all different. We're all unique individuals. We were all crafted differently. But we're all made perfect. So if we understand that and we stick to what we know it's working, and what's yours is yours. And I was consistent and deliberate with my training and my performances, and I just decided to stick to it. Because I didn't want to leave the game with regrets. So basically, year after year, I told myself, well, I'm gonna keep on going until doors closes, until like a door, just like something happens that I truly believe that's like a message from the universe or from God or from whatever you believe, that it's time to take a side and opt for something else. But in my case, after every year, I always had a new chance. So I said, I'm just gonna take it and see what happens by the end of the year, and that's how I've been living for year after year, until that day came when I went pro. I debuted in the first division, and doors are still being opened year after year. So the day that I decide to leave the game, it's on my terms, not on third parties or something that happens.
Yeah, I love that. You mentioned that you got injured. You tore your ACL, correct?
Yeah.
Injuries are a part of the game. It's very common. How'd you bounce back?
I actually have had 3 ACLs.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's actually like 3 years of your life. So that's not an easy thing to deal with. But yes, injuries has been common, but I believe is because of misunderstanding of how to properly train, because our body is not meant to break down. As a matter of fact, if you look at our ancestors, their stress load and you know how they lived is much more, you know, intense and than we have, you know. So I think is the inappropriate training load that you know athletes have right now that are causing you know so many muscle imbalances and which later lead to injuries. But in the psychological part, you know, dealing with injuries is one of the hardest things an athlete can have, because you cannot play the game. You cannot be, you know, if you're on the bench, for example, that people say that not playing, you know, or not starting, it's a problem. But the worst thing is when you're sidelined and you can't really do anything that, you know, physically wise in the moment while where your peers are training. So it's very of a mental side of the game, which I developed it further when I was, you know, injured. But again, when you're injured, you have a new job and it's to get back on the field. So everything you do must be according to that.
Got it. So what did so three is insane, and you said three is like the end, and you were able to still do it. 25, you're having your debut. You got your first debut. Now, how did it feel to have your first debut?
Well, to be honest, it was not the best debut I had. I was way too focused on too many external factors that I lost, you know, focus on actually doing my job. So I got taken out at mid half, at halftime. So I mean, it was not the best debut. And to be fair, after that, I didn't play for 12 straight games. So that was like a bummer. But you know, I think it's everything is an experience and a learning process. And you know, after that, you know, 12 games of not being able to see 1 minute on the field, you know, I knew what had to be corrected. And once I got my chance again, you know, I didn't let it go.
That's tough. 12 games simply because of your debut, like your performance of the debut. So how did you deal with that? Like that's something out of your control, but you know, what would you say is that something you can have more influence on, or is that something out of your hands?
No, I think everything is under your control. It's just that in my debut, I focused too much on my emotions. You know, I was focusing on what I was feeling and who was watching on the national anthem. You know, there's so many things and feelings you feel that day, you know, that I was not able to grasp on what truly mattered. So I was the one that took myself out of the field. You know, that's my on my control. Was not able to hold my composure on that day. And logically, you know, the coach's job is on the line, you know, so they want to play the best players no matter what. And unfortunately, you know, my head was not in the game that day, and I paid the consequences. You know, I paid for the consequences until the coach saw, or the president or whoever makes, you know, the big decisions saw that I was ready again, up for the challenge, and I started another game 12 weeks after. Uh, and I knew what had to be corrected, and thankfully, you know, I maintained my level of intensity throughout those 12 weeks. I never got my head down, and once the day came again, you know, I took the chance and I had a great game, and since then I began starting almost every single match.
Nice. That's really good to hear. So, you know, the difference between amateur to pro, obviously, on a playing wise, is extremely different. But, you know, from amateur to pro, now you're getting paid to do what you love. So, what comes with that?
Well, obviously, the degree of responsibility is higher, but I think something that should not ever change is that see football as work, because it isn't. It's just a game, and that's something that many young athletes, you know, once they do that transition, they start, you know, putting pressure on themselves because they're getting paid. And yes, there is a pressure, and there's more responsibility for you to have because you're getting paid. But at the end of the game, at the end of the day, you play out of love for the game. That's what got you there. So you can never forget, you know, where you come from or how that fire began. But yeah, with getting paid, you have to be more professional. You have to be more disciplined. You have to follow orders. You have to be on time, earlier, stay later. You know, but in essence, something that should not change is for example how you approach the game.
I like that. So, Gabriel, what would you know, let's dive a little bit into on the pitch. What position do you play, and what advice would you give to players that play that position?
Well, I'm a center mid. Obviously, you know, I play like a mixed role. Sometimes I'm more defensive. Sometimes I can do the attacking role. here in my current team, I'm playing, you know, we're playing with two center mids, so we do kind of like a box-to-box midfielder. I mean, by nature, you have to be pretty good physically. You know, your stamina level needs to be pretty high to be able to do box-to-box full 90 minutes. Your field awareness needs to be on top, because you need to be aware of where your teammates are, where pressure is coming, and what decisions you want to have before the ball comes. So you have to have, you know, a pretty good field awareness and tactical awareness. You have to be smart. Logically, you need to have, you know, good passing skills, or at least, you know, if you win the ball, make the simple pass and pass the ball on to someone that's technically better than you. Overall, I think the midfield role is one of those positions where you need to be a pretty well-rounded athlete. But most importantly, I believe that if you have the mental edge over your opponent and over your teammates, you can play anywhere. I mean, if you're able to adapt to what the circumstances are coming, I mean, the faster you think, you know, the better it is, because your feet are just tools.
Got it. Great points. What did, you know, how did you level up in your mindset in regards to that?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
For sure. So you mentioned mindset being an important aspect of the game before the physical. So how did you level up in your mindset? What things did you do to train your mind?
Well, first of all, I mean, experiences, there's just two things that I called mind, you know, the mind in the game, which, you know, the more time you play, you know, the more aware you are of what the game is bringing to you. So you're able to take better decisions. And that comes just by playing time and training. Obviously, you know, I do try to, you know, outside the game, you know, do some sort of visualization before matches or the day of, you know, or apply, you know, meditation techniques to understand my thought process, understanding that, you know, the more focused you're on the match, you know, the better it is that you will perform. You know, you will know what to think about, or at least, you know, you're going to be able to get in that zone that people talk about, which is just simply cutting down emotions and being just driven on what you have to do. Then you have the mental resilience that's built through adversities, basically, which, you know, I have gone through a fair share. And, you know, that mental resilience and toughness just also comes through, you know, your experiences with in and out of the field.
Got it. So if you don't mind me asking, how old are you right now?
I'm 27.
27. So you're moving into your veteran years, or it could be your veteran years right now. You know, going back in time, what advice would you give to yourself, you know, 16 years old? What would you say to yourself? What advice?
My advice for 16 years. Okay. Well, to be fair, I would say care less. Care less on what people think about you, care less about what coaches think about you, care less about what your family thinks about you, care less about what your friends think about you. Just care less. You know, enjoy the moment, because I truly believe that the future is created through your thoughts, actions, and words. So that would be my number one probably tip I'll tell myself, just to care less.
Got it. That's a good point. The last question I'll ask, actually last two questions. I know 10 minutes left. Sorry, I went over time.
No worries. This is amazing. So you can keep on asking questions. It's no problem.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. What changed once you signed your first pro contract?
Well, first of all, what's added? You have a little bit more money in your pocket, so you're able to, you know, invest in other things. But for the most part, what truly changed was my time. In essence, that, you know, you just have less time to do other things, because once you sign your pro contract, that's your priority. You know, you have travelings in the weekends, so you miss family times, you miss birthday parties, you miss so many social events that could matter to you, you know. And that happened in my case. You know, I've missed so many trips with my family in the past years that I don't even remember when was the last time I had a birthday together, you know, my birthday with them, you know. So those are the things. Probably that's, you know, my time is now limited. limited because sometimes we train twice a day. You travel in the weekends. For example, yesterday we had a match in the evening, you know, when I had to be with the team since 6 in the morning. So it's a full day that you invest in the team for 90 minutes. So you have to be aware that once you go pro, I mean, you devote yourself to the team, and there's no excuses on whether, you know, you're sick, you have a birthday, or you feel injured or whatever. I mean, there's no excuses on showing up on time and doing the work.
Absolutely. And the last question before we dive into the fun questions: what's your most memorable football moment in your life?
I have two, you know, that come into my mind. First one was my debut to the national team, because I was, you know, playing for your country, one of the best things any athlete can do. And the second one was my first goal in the first division, which we were losing 1-0, and I tied it in like the 85th minute. So that was just, you know, one of the best feelings I've ever had.
That's awesome. Yeah, national team's a huge accomplishment. All right,
Yeah.
to dive into the speed questions, you got to answer them fast, Gabriel. So it's 5. The first one is your favorite team.
Real Madrid.
Favorite player?
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Favorite cleats?
I would say Mercurial.
Favorite food?
I would say salmon.
Favorite artist?
Is musical artist?
Music, yeah.
Yeah, I would say probably Spanish. I'm not sure, but Daddy Yankee.
And what's your favorite song by him?
Dura.
Dura. Okay. I'll see if I remember. I'll check it out. But Gabriel, before we go, I just want to thank you for taking the time for joining us on the One Soccer Nation podcast.
No, and thank you for the invitation. I had loads of fun.